Imagine stepping off a long-haul flight. The air is thick and humid, and you are finally in a country you have dreamed of visiting for years. But as the baggage carousel slowly grinds to a halt and the crowd thins out, your heart sinks. Your bright red suitcase, containing not just your clothes, but your passport, your cash, and your entire itinerary, is nowhere to be seen. You are completely alone in a foreign land, surrounded by a language you do not speak. It is a modern nightmare, is it not?
It absolutely is. In fact, psychologists say that losing your identification and belongings in an unfamiliar environment triggers a primal panic response. It is not just about the monetary value of the items. It is a sudden, jarring loss of agency and identity. You go from being an excited explorer to feeling completely helpless in a matter of minutes.
Exactly. And that brings us to a fascinating story that happened recently at Tân Sơn Nhất International Airport in Ho Chi Minh City. It involves a traveler named Alex from the United Kingdom who went through this exact ordeal, and an airport staff member named Trang who turned a potential disaster into a masterclass in empathy. I want to unpack this today because it teaches us so much about human connection in high-stress environments.
I love that story because it highlights how fragile our travel experiences can be, but also how powerful a calm presence is. Alex had just arrived after a long flight from Bangkok. It was raining heavily, the airport was chaotic, and 45 minutes after landing, his bag was still missing. He was panicking, running around trying to get help, but the language barrier made it feel impossible.
Right. And when you are in that state, every second feels like an hour. You start imagining the worst-case scenarios, like being stuck in the airport indefinitely. But then, Trang stepped in. What did she do differently that changed the trajectory of his entire experience?
Instead of matching his panic or treating him like just another customer ticket, she did something simple but profound. She walked over, offered a warm smile, and actively lowered the emotional temperature of the room. She did not promise an immediate miracle, but she showed him that he was no longer alone in the chaos. That psychological shift is crucial.
That makes sense. But let us look at the practical side of this. When someone is screaming or crying because their life is in that missing suitcase, how do you actually calm them down without sounding dismissive? It is easy to say stay calm, but doing it is another story.
You have to start with empathy, not bureaucracy. The first step is to de-escalate. You do not talk about forms or policies right away. You focus on the person. You use short, clear sentences. Tell them to take a deep breath. Offer them a seat and a bottle of water. This physically forces their nervous system to slow down. If you start asking for flight numbers while they are hyperventilating, you will just escalate their anxiety.
I see. It is like grounding them first. Once they are grounded, you can actually gather the information you need. What are the key details you need to extract from a panicked traveler in that moment?
You need to be very systematic, but gentle. You need to know exactly what was lost. Was it checked luggage from the carousel? Or did they leave a carry-on in the restroom? You need the flight number, the airline, and most importantly, the luggage tag code, which is usually stuck to the back of their boarding pass. And of course, a clear description of the bag. A bright red suitcase is much easier to spot than a generic black one.
But what if the bag is truly gone? Or worse, their passport is in it? That seems to be the ultimate nightmare. If their passport is missing, the airport lost and found cannot just hand them a new one.
That is where knowing the right authorities comes in. If it is checked luggage, the airline must issue a property irregularity report. But if it is a passport, the protocol changes entirely. You have to guide them to contact their embassy or consulate immediately to secure an emergency travel document. As a helper, whether you work at the airport or are just a bystander, knowing this distinction can save someone days of aimless wandering.
It really highlights how complex these modern transport hubs are. They are like mini-cities, and when you are lost in one, the digital divide can make it worse. If you do not have local internet, you cannot even search for your embassy's address.
That is a great point. Helping them connect to the airport Wi-Fi is actually a critical step. It allows them to email their family, contact their hotel, or look up their travel insurance policy. It restores their line of communication to the outside world. In a way, digital connectivity is just as important as physical security in these situations.
Let us talk about the attitude of the person helping. You mentioned that Trang did not speak perfect English, but she still managed to save the day. It seems we often overestimate the need for linguistic perfection and underestimate the power of body language.
Absolutely. Empathy is a universal language. A reassuring nod, open body language, and a willingness to listen speak much louder than fluent grammar. When you show that you care, the traveler stops seeing you as a barrier and starts seeing you as an ally.
And what about the temptation to make false promises? I think when we see someone in distress, our instinct is to say, "Do not worry, we will definitely find it." Is that a mistake?
It is a massive trap. If you promise they will find it and they do not, you destroy their trust. Instead, focus on the process. Say, "We are going to do everything we can, and here is our plan." It gives them a sense of structure and control, which is what they actually need.
That structure is so reassuring. In Alex's case, his bag was actually found just 2 hours later at the lost and found counter. It had simply been routed to the wrong carousel. It is amazing how a simple logistical error can cause such a massive emotional crisis.
It really shows how thin the line is between a dream vacation and a travel disaster. But what is beautiful about this story is Alex's reaction. He said Vietnam welcomed him with a challenge, but won him over with kindness. That tells us that the way we handle a crisis can actually leave a more lasting, positive impression than if everything had gone perfectly.
That is a profound thought. We often try to design perfect, frictionless experiences in tourism and hospitality. But maybe the real test of a culture's warmth is not how smooth things are when they go right, but how we treat people when things go wrong.
Exactly. Friction is inevitable. Airports will lose bags, flights will be delayed, and people will make mistakes. But the human element is the ultimate buffer. When we step up to help someone who is vulnerable, we are reinforcing a global community. We are saying, "You are a stranger here, but you are safe."
It makes me think about how we navigate our own lives. We all experience moments where our plans fall apart, where we lose our metaphorical luggage. Having someone step in and say, "Let us take a breath and figure this out together," is incredibly powerful.
It really is. It is about co-regulation. When one person is in a state of chaos, the other person's calm can help them regulate their own emotions. It is a biological response. So, staying calm is not just a polite customer service policy, it is a physiological tool.
As we wrap up today's conversation, it is clear that handling these emergencies is about far more than just filling out forms. It is about understanding the human being behind the crisis. The next time you find yourself at an airport, or even just walking down the street, and you see someone who looks completely lost and overwhelmed, remember Trang and Alex.
Yes, and remember that you do not need to have all the answers immediately. You just need to be willing to stand with them, break the problem down step by step, and offer a calm port in the storm. That small act of kindness can completely change the trajectory of their journey, and perhaps even their perspective on the world.
It is a reminder that we are all travelers in one way or another, and sooner or later, we will all need someone to help us find our way back. Thank you for sharing these insights today. It has been a truly eye-opening discussion on the power of empathy in the most chaotic places.
It was a pleasure. Let us all try to be that calm presence for someone else this week. Safe travels, everyone, wherever your journey takes you.